As of this recording, the FBI has completely mismanaged and botched the investigation into the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which took place in Orem, Utah, at the Utah Valley University campus at approximately 12:20 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. The FBI has gotten it wrong twice already. As of this recording, they had an individual of interest who they claimed was a suspect who turned out not to be the person who was involved. But the police ended up arresting this other person who I'm not even going to say the name because it was someone who wasn't involved in the shooting. They arrested the person for obstruction of justice, even though they had nothing to do with the incident. And then there was another individual around 25, 26 years old who had a pellet gun in his car. And this individual was interrogated. And after it was clear that this individual had nothing to do with it, the FBI released this individual. But Kash Patel had posted on social media that they had the suspect in custody, and then he had to issue a social media retraction. This is very, very sloppy work. I want to show you what he posted, but I also want to talk about how the FBI had recently fired the head of the Utah field office, a long-term FBI leader, Pakistani woman. She got fired a few weeks ago after being appointed to lead the Utah field office back in February. So that Utah field office, we've been reporting about it like all these FBI field offices are in complete and utter shambles and disarray. In addition to botching and mismanaging the investigation, one of the questions that I think is going to be asked, and let me just ask it, the FBI is supposed to be focused on domestic terrorism and stopping incidents like this before they took place. And you will all recall that this guy, Thomas Fugate III, like a 22-year-old former intern of Trump, is the person who's in charge of stopping domestic violence and attacks. Should also be noted that earlier in the morning yesterday, we learned about a lawsuit being filed by the former head acting director of the FBI, Driscoll, who said that Kash Patel and everybody at the FBI was more concerned with social media engagement than stopping counterterrorism. I want to weave this all together and make it make sense for us. So let's just go through it as we always do here on the Midas Touch Network, methodically. So yesterday, after the shooting, Kash Patel posted, "The subject for the horrific shooting today that took the life of Charlie Kirk is now in custody. Thank you to the local and state authorities in Utah for your partnership with the FBI. We will provide updates when available." Then about an hour later, Kash Patel had to post, "The subject in custody has been released after an interrogation by law enforcement. Our investigation continues, and we will continue to release information in the interest of transparency." Then the FBI put out a statement like this yesterday. This is the statement. "Submit tips regarding today's shooting at Utah Valley University." Now look, having a tip line is something that I'm not going to criticize having a tip line, but they're already at that stage. Please help us, public. We want your help because we don't know what we're doing, basically. Here was the statement from the special agent in charge, Robert Bowles, who replaced the head of the field office, someone named Mahtab Saeed, a Pakistani American who basically worked her entire life at the FBI and rose through the ranks after 9/11. So here was the statement from the new special agent in charge, Robert Bowles. And again, they just fired their leader a few weeks ago. "As soon as we heard about the shooting, special agents and personnel from the Salt Lake City field office responded immediately. We have full resources devoted to this investigation, including tactical, operational, investigative, and intelligence. To be clear, the FBI will fully support and co-lead this investigation alongside our partners." I mean, it sounds a whole lot like Trump's perspective of FEMA. We're going to just take a back seat here and we'll let our partners, state and local, you can deal with it, when state and local had normally been used to, on things like this, dealing with the feds, undoubtedly. So this is the media advisory from the police task force involved. Let me read it to you so you can see how bad this was botched. At approximately 12:20 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, political influencer Charlie Kirk was speaking at a student-sponsored event with Turning Point USA. Charlie was shot during the event at Utah Valley University, after which he was taken to the regional hospital and hours later pronounced dead. This shooting is still an active investigation. The Utah Department of Public Safety and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, are co-leading this incident in unison with the Utah County Attorney's Office, the Utah County Sheriff's Office, and the local police departments. We initially took in a guy by the name of George Zinn as a suspect. He was later released and charged with obstruction by UVU police. A second suspect, Zachariah Karishi, was taken into custody and released after interrogation with law enforcement. By the way, Karishi had a pellet gun. It was clear it was not the type of weapon that could do what took place in Orem, the assassination, but they took him in and Kash Patel nonetheless posted it. There were no current ties to the shooting with either of these individuals, and that became clear after the interrogation with law enforcement. So why did you announce it? There is an ongoing investigation and manhunt for the shooter. The FBI has created a digital media tip line for information regarding the shooting. We ask the public to please provide any information they may have to this tip line. DPS's State Crime Lab, along with all law enforcement, are working multiple active crime scenes. These were identified based on where the victim was shot, as well as the locations where the suspect and victim traveled. It then goes on to say 3,000 people attended this event. It says it's a tragic moment for Utah, and then it gives a number for the Utah mental health line. Now, as Kash Patel had to issue a retraction that the suspect in custody was not involved in the shooting, Ann Bauer very rightfully pointed out the following. In a suit filed earlier yesterday by 3 fired FBI officials, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, Patel is the FBI director, Dan Bongino is the deputy FBI director, are portrayed as being so obsessed with social media that it could risk outweighing more deliberate analysis of investigations. It goes on to talk about how Bongino was obsessed with discussing media interviews and his social media feed. During these briefings, Jensen became alarmed at Bongino's intense focus on increasing online engagement through his social media profiles in an effort to change his followers' perception of the FBI. Jensen was concerned that the emphasis Bongino placed on creating content for his social media page could risk outweighing more deliberate analysis and investigations. Patel and Bongino told senior FBI officials, Bauer writes, that they should be posting more about their successful investigations and other FBI wins on social media. Around this time, Evans virtually met Patel and Bongino through a series of video teleconference meet and greets they were conducting with various leadership. During these meetings, Patel and Bongino did not bring up COVID-19 protocol or Evans' role in another leadership position. Instead, they generally congratulated Evans and others for doing good work and indicated that as leaders, they should be posting more about their successful investigations and other FBI wins on social media. Now, that lawsuit was filed yesterday morning. It was filed by Brian Driscoll, Stephen Jensen, and Spencer Evans against the FBI and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. And just a reminder of who those individuals are in case you forgot, these were very high-ranking FBI officials at the highest level. You had Driscoll is the former acting director of the FBI. You had Jensen, the former assistant director in charge of the Washington field office. So obviously dealing with counterterrorism and key issues like that. And Spencer Evans served in the FBI for over 20 years in various leadership positions as well. So they were fired. They filed a lawsuit, and in the lawsuit, they talk about all of the mismanagement at the FBI. But then right there in Utah, high-ranking FBI job losses disproportionately hurt women and people of color. Leaders are undertaking an unprecedented campaign to force senior officials off the job. Here's a photo of the Pakistani-American Mehtab Saeed. She was just told she was not a good fit for the Utah office after she was appointed that position and installed in that position in February. The local news network KSL in Utah wrote this very nice piece about her back in May before she got fired. New head of Salt Lake FBI office made dramatic career shift to be part of the solution. She goes on to say she was perfectly fine with her degree in finance and doing financial work, but after 9/11, she wanted to do something different and wanted to be part of a solution. She was Muslim and living in New York at the time. She decided to apply for FBI jobs. She then got a return phone call and she entered the FBI Academy at age 35. In 2008, she was sent to Islamabad, Pakistan as the acting assistant legal attaché there. After Pakistan, she returned to New York, where she was the supervisor of counterterrorism task force that investigated all these terrorist groups, including Al-Qaeda and ISIS. In 2012, she was asked by her supervisors to work at the FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. She rose through the ranks and she was appointed the field office head of Utah, but then fired a few weeks ago before this incident right here. Now, just going through that lawsuit filed by Driscoll and Evans and Jensen, just here are some of the allegations that they make. For decades, Driscoll, Jensen, and Evans served this country with distinction and courage as special agents and senior officials of the FBI. Over the course of their remarkable careers, they prevented terrorist attacks, rescued American hostages, saved children from predators, and disabled violent street gangs. Each day of their service was dedicated to protecting the American people and to fulfilling the oath they took when they joined the FBI, to support and to defend the Constitution of the United States and to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. Plaintiffs' commitment to these higher principles compelled them at all times to perform their duties free from political bias or influence. This same commitment galled defendants, Bondi, Kash Patel, Bongino, Trump, who initiated a campaign of retribution against plaintiffs for what defendants deemed to be a failure to demonstrate sufficient political loyalty. On August 8, 2025, Director Kash Patel terminated plaintiffs' combined 60 years of distinguished service in federal law enforcement with cursory, single-page letters sent to each plaintiff. He did so in violation of federal law and the United States Constitution. Patel not only acted unlawfully, but deliberately chose to prioritize politicizing the FBI over protecting the American people. As explained herein, his decision to do so degraded the country's national security by firing 3 of the FBI's most experienced operational leaders, each of them experts in preventing terrorism and reducing violent crimes. Patel openly acknowledged the unlawfulness of his actions. On or about August 5, 2025, in a conversation with Driscoll, Patel plainly stated the reasoning behind the firing of FBI employees that Mr. Driscoll sought to defend. In sum and substance, Patel admitted that his superiors, who he referred to as they, and who Driscoll understood to include the DOJ, the White House, Trump, and others, working on criminal investigations. Patel explained that he had to fire the people his superiors told him to fire because his ability to keep his own job depended on the removal of the agents who worked on cases involving Donald Trump. Patel explained that there was nothing he or Driscoll could do to stop these or any other firings because the FBI tried to put Donald Trump in jail and he hasn't forgotten it. Driscoll indicated his belief that Patel's reference to his superiors meant the DOJ and White House, and Patel did not